e4. Always deploy, says Franklin K. Young, so that the right oblique may be readily established in case the objective plane remains open or becomes permanently located on the center or on the king's wing, or that the crochet aligned may readily be established if the objective plane becomes permanently located otherwise than at the extremity of the strategic front. If this is somewhat obscure, and I see no reason to believe otherwise, the conclusion it reaches is stated in limpid prose by the same writer: the best initial move for white is 1e4. e5. Black's best chance to equalize is to get a fair share of the most important squares, those in the center. With 1e5, he stakes out his claim, meanwhile freeing two of his pieces. Knight f3. You may play this confidently, secure in the knowledge that no master alive can make a better move. The knight develops in one move to its most suitable square in the opening. It exerts pressure on two of the four squares in the vital central area. It comes in toward the center so that it enjoys maximum mobility. It helps clear the king side, enabling early castling of the king on that side. It is posted ideally for the defense of the king after he castles. It comes into play with a gain of time, an attack on a pawn. In short, it's a very good move. Knight c6. A commendable reply. Black develops a piece, protecting his pawn at the same time. Bishop b5. Probably the strongest move on the board. The bishop puts a restraining hand on the pawn's defender. There is no immediate threat of winning the pawn as after 4, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, 5, knight takes e5, the reply 5, queen d4, regains the pawn. But there is pressure on the knight, and this pressure becomes intensified when black sooner or later advances his d-pawn since the knight is then pinned. f5. A bold attempt to seize the initiative. The idea is to lure white into surrendering the center by taking the f-pawn. d4. An aggressive player would like white's counterattack on the e-pawn. Another dynamic line is 4, knight c3, aiming for pieceplay, while a conservative player might be content with 4, d3, supporting the e-pawn so that in the event of an exchange on e4, he would retain a pawn in the center. F takes e4. Black's capture is intended mainly to evict the knight from its strong post. Knight takes e5. Apparently a strong move. White gets his pawn back and prevents 5, d6, or 5, d5, after either of these moves, the continuation 6, knight takes c6, b takes c6, 7, bishop takes c6 check, wins the exchange. White also has a powerful threat in 6, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, 7, queen h5 check, king e7, 8, queen f7 check, king d6, 9, knight c4 checkmate. This is all very tempting, since the possibility of mating so early in the game is attractive to the young player, but such ambition should be suppressed. Premature mating attacks are usually repulsed with loss of time or material to the aggressor. A safer continuation is 5, bishop takes c6, d takes c6, 6, knight takes e5. Knight takes e5. Black removes the best defender of white's kingside position and puts an end to any combinative notions white might have entertained. D takes e5. White has nothing to show for the overenergetic move 4, d4. The simple and natural development of the b1, knight by 4, knight c3, would have been preferable. c6. A pawn move when pieces should be brought into play? Yes, if the move is justified by the particular position. Black has 4 good arguments for the pawn push. 1. He must drive off the bishop before he can advance his d-pawn, otherwise the king is in check. 2. The time lost in moving the pawn is compensated for by the fact that the bishop must also lose a move in retreating. 3. He opens a fine diagonal for his queen. 4. The attack on the bishop will win a pawn, and a pawn is worth a little trouble, according to Steinitz. Bishop c4. Ordinarily, this is an excellent place for the bishop, but e2 is more consistent with the requirements of the position. White has lost the services of his king's knight, and the bishop might help the defense of the kingside. Queen a5 check. Double attack on king and e5 pawn. Knight c3. The best way to get out of check. White places the b1 knight where it belongs in the opening. Queen takes e5. Black has won a pawn, which is a good start toward winning the game. His aim now is to get an attack rolling in the direction of White's denuded kingside. Castle kingside. Plausible, and bad. It was more discreet to conceal his intentions, develop the queenside pieces, and castle later, perhaps on the queenside. d5. Of course. Black seizes the center, chases off the enemy bishop, and enables his own c8 bishop to make an appearance. All this in one move. Bishop b3. Here too the defensive move 10, bishop e2, placing the bishop where he overlooks two diagonals, is preferable. Knight f6. Organizing a kingside attack by a simple process, developing his pieces. Bishop e3. Partly to prevent black from playing 11, bishop c5, partly to dislodge the centralized queen by 12, bishop d4, or 12, queen d4. Bishop d6. This fine move has more significance than the mere development of a piece combined with a mating threat. The ulterior object is to create a permanent irremediable weakness in White's kingside position by forcing one of the defending pawns to make a move. g3. The only possible defense. If instead 12, f4, then 12, e takes f3, 13, queen takes f3, queen takes h2 check, 14, king f2, bishop g4, and black wins. After the text move, black starts an attack, but using his pieces rather than trying to break into the position by the pawn assault 12, h5, followed by h4. Bishop g4. Black bases his attack on the theme of penetration. White has weakened the f3 and h3 squares by 12, g3, as these squares are no longer guarded by the g-pawn. These squares are now holes, as Steinitz first named them. Enemy pieces that settle themselves on these squares stand firm, as no pawns can ever drive them away. The bishop attacks the queen, with the object of insinuating itself into f3, without loss of time. Queen d2. As good as there is. If White interposes the knight at e2, instead, then 13, queen h5, attacking the knight once more, forces 14, rook e1, whereupon 14, queen h3, plants a piece in one hole. Black's following move is 15, bishop f3, occupying the other hole, and the stage is set for mate at g2. Bishop f3. The second step in the process of penetration. Bishop f4. Hoping for a line such as 14, queen e7, 15, bishop takes d6, queen takes d6, 16, queen f4, when an exchange or two might ease his difficulties. After White's 14th move, Black has a forced mate in a few moves. Queen f5. Deserts the bishop, but Black is interested only in getting the queen to h3, with a death grip on the light squares. Knight d1. The only possible chance to defend. The knight is to be brought to e3, to guard the g2 square, where mate impends. Queen h3. Threatening instant mate. Knight e3. Defending the critical square. Knight g4. The new threat is made at h2. Notice the clever use of the weakened light squares on the king side as the black pieces infiltrate the enemy position. Rook fc1. Room for the king. Queen takes h2 check. And mate comes next move.